So we're going to start. I see one person is on with us. Good morning. My name is Karen Roos, and I am an environmental educator here at High Rock Park. Right now we are in the parking lot of High Rock Park, and you can see behind me we have our beautiful gate. And my co-educator Angel, who is here to join me with our Fine Patch of Wild program. And we are going to be reading chapter 4 today. And this is all about a wonderful woman named Greta Moulton. But right now, I'm going to pass it on to Angel.
Hi everyone, how are you doing today? Here's the book that Karen was talking about. This is the second edition, High Rock and the Greenbelt. And since we are going to be talking a lot about Greta Moulton and all of her very influential and passionate friends who helped in the 20th century to preserve this park in this area, we thought it was really, really important to also acknowledge that this area and this land of Staten Island is the ancestral homeland of the Lenape people. And they were here, you'll actually read about it in chapter 2 of this book, and they were here until colonizers came in and pushed them out. So we do acknowledge that Staten Island was once known as Aquahanga Manaknak to them.
Alrighty, so I do want to focus a little bit on this beautiful gate that is at the entranceway of High Rock Park, and this is dedicated to Greta Moulton, who we'll be speaking about. It's a beautiful gate that was designed by a man named Bradford Green, and it was dedicated here in 1994. And as you can see, it's got some really nice ironwork. We can see a squirrel, a turtle. If you come down here, you can see some beautiful plants. And these are all very indicative of what you might find in High Rock Park. We have some cattails and some other wildlife here. So it's a really beautiful gate. And if you have a chance to come check that out and really take a nice look at it, it was restored a few years ago. We got rid of some of the rust and painted it, so it looks really great right now. So we are going to start walking up our pathway here. So right now I'm on the path going up into High Rock Park. And today we are going to be talking about chapter 4 in our book, A Fine Patch of Wild. And this book is all about the history of High Rock Park. And this particular chapter is really important because it talks about how High Rock Park was saved from development. If the people didn't work so hard, like Greta Moulton and Nelson Rockefeller and all the people that got together and saved this park, we would not be here today teaching you all about the history. So we're going to come back up to Angel, who is going to read a little excerpt out of the book.
Hi again. So we're actually sitting right at the start of the green trail, right here at the picnic tables. And just a few paragraphs down into the book, into the chapter, I'm going to start up. So they were talking a little bit about Greta Moulton, and they continue. She had been raised in the scouting tradition at her childhood homes in Waltham and Weston, Massachusetts. Short-term camps and day hikes, and later, as an adult volunteer, the challenge of making these outdoor exercises as meaningful to a new generation as they had been to her own. For a number of years before the move to Staten Island, she directed the camping program at Cedar Hill near Belmont, Massachusetts, and was an inveterate traveler to regional roundups throughout the Northeast. The Cedar Hill responsibility was especially demanding. Those who were close to her at the time recall that she was relieved finally when her husband's work took them both away to New York. But she was not to be inactive for long. Her reputation for getting things done had preceded her to the island. And she was instantly recruited as consultant to the women who had just taken over part of the old Boy Scout camp on Toad Hill. And here we are. One thing that needed getting done was a program to revitalize the land, for the land at High Rock was battered. Boy Scout troops had been tramping and camping across the property for 20 years, and more than a few of their scoutmasters were the kind of men who were not accustomed to tread lightly in any country. One must remember also that the fabled scout axe was then as much a part of the official scout uniform as the obligatory kerchief and the khaki knee pants. Thus, in the 1950s, one could stroll through certain corridors of High Rock woodlands, wondering where all the saplings had gone, and the brush and the ferns and the grass, and why the compacted earth looked cracked and dry. One could rejoice, however, in the fact that the machismo was now removed to the other side of the tracks, the blue lines of the Richmond Parkway, and that the camping and tramping would henceforth be governed by gentler hands and softer feet. What's more, the camp's new managers began to rotate the areas selected for intensive use and to reroute some of the more heavily used trails, so that by 1960, the old battered corridors were beginning to look green again. And in all of this, Greta Moulton was a key participant, involved not only with the immediate needs of the camping program, but with the far more complex aspects of keeping that program in tune with the rhythms of the land itself. In fact, Greta Moulton and her associates were so absorbed with the rhythms of High Rock that they almost failed to hear the approaching sound of an altogether different kind of music. With the wind in the treetops, they could just barely perceive the faraway jingle of coins. And that's where we'll leave it to start our hike.
Okay, so I'm just gonna flip you around here. Hi everyone. I just want to show you behind me where we came in to our park today. We do have this beautiful swamp right behind us, and you can see we're right at the Lavender Trail. So that is one of the trails you can pick up right as you come into the park. But today we are going to travel on the Green Trail, and we'll flip you around, show you that. So here we are at our markers that Angel this past year has reblazed so you can find your way easily through our park. And you can see here we're at the Yellow Trail and the Green Trail. We are going to be following the Green Trail, and that 3 marker that looks kind of like a triangle is indicating that this is the beginning of our trail. So the Green Trail, why are we doing that today? We are doing that because this is also known as the Greta Moulton Trail. And again, we are talking about Greta Moulton today because she was so important to the preservation of this park and helping it to become parkland, so no one can come here and build on it. Before she was able to do that, though, this property, parts of this property, was actually sold to developers. I believe it was a group called the Newdorp Gardens. They wanted to put homes here, and because of her efforts, again, along with a lot of grassroots and some funding, they were able to buy it back from that developer who actually did buy some of this property. They were able to buy it back, and the city of New York purchased it at that time.
And from what I understand, this was Greta Moulton's favorite part of the park, and her most favorite part that her grandchildren shared with people was actually a loosestrife swamp that we just passed by that you could access from the Lavender Trail there. You can see some nice signs of early spring out here today.
Yeah, so a lot of our creeks are flowing and our little streams, and you can see right here we have our skunk cabbage, which is growing beautifully. One of the first plants you'll see, always by water, and it's so bright green right now. You may also see this in the younger version of it, which maybe we'll find, which looks kind of like a purple curlicue. I don't know how else to describe that.
So we can see this wayfinder here gives us some additional directions. Lets us know that the Yellow Trail, which we are also on right now, is going to diverge from our Green Trail. It's going to go left, but we're going to go straight up this nice little hill, and we are going in the direction of Moses' Mountain. If you check out just to the right there, you'll see that there's a trail there also, and that's really important to mention because all of the trails off to the right are actually part of Pouch Camp and the Boy Scout camp.
So our property here is adjacent to Pouch Camp, and many years ago, as Angel spoke about, the Boy Scouts actually did control this property until the Girl Scouts took it over. When the Girl Scouts left here, I think they moved the Girl Scout camps upstate New York, which is something Greta Moulton was not too fond about because it made it inaccessible to maybe lower income families coming from Brooklyn and other parts of the city.
This is a really cool tree here. It kind of might be confusing to some, but I'll explain it real quick. It shows that this green trail can go right. This is your right turn trail marker, or it can go left. So that indicates to me that this is a little bit of a loop, and we're going to meet back in the same place.
So which way do you want to head?
Whichever way you want to go.
Like, choose your own adventure.
Totally. I did want to mention the green color of these trailblazers, because as I was painting them, I was thinking, this green's a little teal. Why is it so teal? And it was actually one of the recommended colors from the New York, New Jersey Trail Conference. And I thought about it, and I wondered why it was teal, why there were no green options. And it didn't take too long for me to realize that what happens in spring and summer, but all the leaves come out on the trees, and everything's green, so you wouldn't be able to see a trail marker, which is why we don't use regular forest green or Kelly green or even olive green or browns. So if you see browns out here, it's an attempt to cover up an old trail marker.
It's a little cold and rainy today, so we're not seeing too much wildlife. Like most of us, we like to stay indoors when the weather isn't so great. So, although this morning there were quite a few birds and some frogs peeping.
A really important part of why we're walking on this green trail, which is also known as the Greta Moulton Trail, which I just learned the other day as I was reading through some historical documents about Greta Moulton, is the fact that this whole part of the park, this area between Rockland Avenue and Manor Road, adjacent to High Rock, was actually proposed in the mid-70s to be called Greta Moulton Park. And as I read through all of these documents, I got the extreme pleasure of being able to read handwritten notes from all of the residents on Nevada Avenue in favor of this park being saved and called Greta Moulton Park, to honor this trailblazing heroine of environmental conservation on Staten Island. And so we know it's not called Greta Moulton Park now, and I'd be curious to know kind of why that happened, but it certainly still bears her name with the Greta Moulton Trail. And we're at another split here, actually. So the green trail makes a loop. It kind of has a tail on the end of it, and then it makes a big loop. So if we were to go right, the way that Karen is pointing, we'd be going directly toward Moses Mountain. But we're going to go left down the hill, and down the hill is where the other portion of the green connects. So we're going to go nice and slow, because we're able to see some really cool topography changes as we go down. And if you kind of pan around, you can see different colors of vegetation. I don't know if you can see it on the screen, but I can see a nice layer of green close to the ground, and that's the greenbrier. And when in 1978, when they were, or 1977 and 1978, when they were actually cutting this trail into this area, it was about 30 youths in one summer who did this. And it said that they were cutting through immense amounts of greenbrier just to make this trail walkable.
So for those of you who aren't aware, greenbrier is a super thorny plant. And if you've ever gotten stuck with it, you'll know it doesn't tickle. So that was not an easy job for those young men to be doing. So Isabel asked which park we are in today. We are in High Rock Park and we are walking along the green trail. And we started at the parking lot, which is located at the top of Nevada Avenue. The address is 200 Nevada Avenue, but you can just come right up to Nevada Avenue, which comes off Rockland Avenue, and you come right into our parking lot. And the green trail starts right at our picnic benches. And you can see we're coming up to yet another little stream. And because it's spring and it's been raining so much, our streams are flowing so beautifully. I really encourage people to come out and see them before it starts to dry up in the summer. So. We're really not too far from Manor Road and we can hear the traffic, but this beautiful stream is so peaceful.
And it's really beautiful on a day like today. Maybe a lot of people wouldn't come out because it's kind of cold and damp and threatening to rain at any moment now. But what that moisture in the air does to the greens that are out here right now is just really phenomenal. So when I look around, I see lots of browns, lots of sandy beiges, some gray in the tree trunks, but I also see so much green. There's some beautiful mosses growing up the sides of the trees, and we can tell wherever there is moss that it is a really moist environment. And we did just come all the way down that really steep hill, so we are in the lowest area now, where if we also look to the right, you'd see that this tends to be a wetter, kind of swampier area when it is more moist.
And you can see our skunk cabbage growing over here. So that's an indication that there is water nearby. And you may have also noticed that we are connected again with the yellow trail. So you can actually take the yellow trail from the parking lot and meet up here at the same spot. So there's more than one way to get around High Rock Park.
And again, we are traveling closer to traffic, and that means that we're closer to Manor Road and closer to Moses' Mountain. And I know that most people out there know the history of that mountain, which is a man-made structure. And it is addressed in this book quite a bit because the development of residential structures as well as highways are what were threatening High Rock Park for many years. And that's where Greta Moulton and her just incredibly pointed passion and focus to saving this area really came in, because it was the fight in the mid-60s to save High Rock Park from the fact that it had actually been sold, like Karen said. The Girl Scouts sold it to the New Dorp developers, and then through some political maneuvers and rezoning, they were able to save it. But then in the late 60s, there was another huge threat to High Rock Park, and that was the impending development of the Richmond Parkway.
So we're walking over some of our little bridges here. Do be careful, they get a little slippery in the rain, but as you can see, there was quite a bit of water. behind me.
We have some more green over here. Some of the edible wild green onions here. And those are some plants that I saw all winter long. It was pretty amazing that even in the starkness of cold and white, snowy winter, that they still were so resilient and popping up. You also see lots of these beautiful light green buds.
And some lichen.
Left and right.
Quite pretty. So I do hear some birds. It's also raining a little bit, which actually sounds really nice.
It feels really nice too. Very gentle. But I think that dichotomy between, the fact that we're on Staten Island, a very developed area, and still in this amazingly tranquil sanctuary of nature, it's exactly what makes High Rock Park so special to me. So where some people might be annoyed that they hear traffic, it kind of just exemplifies everything that this park means to me. So it reminds me how lucky we are to be here and how thankful we should be for everyone who came before us, who really fought the fight to bring us to where we are now.
So I'm focusing in on this really beautiful plant that is starting to bloom right now. And this is a spice bush. You may not have heard of it, but it is a native plant and it grows pretty plentiful here in High Rock Park. It's a great plant. It's got a red berry in the springtime, in the summer. And that berry was used by Native Americans to spice their food. It is a really great alternative to non-native plants. It's a great host for pollinators, especially butterflies. So if you're looking for something beautiful to plant in your yard, see if you can find some native spice bush and plant that. You'll probably get some nice butterflies. Again, we have a beautiful stream and we can see the traffic right there, but we still have this peaceful, beautiful area. Sort of calm our minds.
And I'm going to read the last two chapters or two paragraphs of the chapter because they are, as we're approaching the road, we're kind of approaching that point in this book as well. So I'll read as we're walking. On April 4th, 1965, the city of New York filed a notice of the pendency of a condemnation proceeding to acquire 62 acres at High Rock Park for public purposes. The award granted by the court to the owners of the property, New York Gardens Incorporated, was $1,260,000. The 11-acre Walker Tract would be acquired later that year for $295,000. And on July 7th, High Rock was dedicated officially as parkland, albeit not the kind of parkland to which either Newbold Morris or Robert Moses might have been accustomed, as we shall presently see. Greta Moulton was there for the ribbon cutting, as were President Lewis Miller and Executive Director George O. Pratt Jr. of the Staten Island Institute of Arts and Sciences, which would soon be playing a key role itself in the transformation of a scout camp into a conservation center. And one should not overlook the presence of Albert V. Maniscalco, beaming as he sliced the ribbon. There were no formal speeches, although Maniscalco later spoke to a reporter from the Staten Island Advance. It was a fine occasion, he said to the newsman, a splendid reminder of our moral duty to see that such places, which nature has so beautifully blessed, are protected from the hammers and axes of the seekers of the fast dollar. And with that, the perils of High Rock seemed to be over. But in fact, they had only just begun. as I say that, I look to my right and I see that even now, High Rock Park is not over the perils, you know? There's still dumping, there's still littering that is really shocking to me that in this day and age people would still continue to do that and not really see the power and the value in keeping these areas green. So that's where environmental education comes in and hopefully tries to level the playing field a little bit and keep these areas as pristine and clean as possible.
So something very interesting about the area we're in right now is that there is these amazing trees called persimmon trees. And these trees were actually planted here by William T. Davis. And they're one of the few little patches of persimmons left on Staten Island. And they're a really interesting tree. They do make a persimmon fruit. You might have heard of that. But they have this really neat bark that looks almost like mosaic tile. So they're pretty unique. They grow nice and tall and straight, as you can see. Very tall, thin trees. And they do, as I said, make those persimmon fruits. And they were planted here. There's a few other areas where you can find these trees, but they're not super plentiful here on Staten Island. William T. Davis was a naturalist, and he spent many, many, many hours and days and months and weeks in these areas collecting samples of wildlife and plants, and you can see a lot of those at the Staten Island Museum.
And it really is a testament to the power of the seed and the power of life and its will to survive that we can really see his impact even just in that tiny grove, because we may not really be aware of what an impact people like William T. Davis or Greta Moulton or Maniscalco or anybody really had, because maybe we just don't know the history. But to know that this trail is here to commemorate an incredible woman and her vision for the future, and that little grove of persimmon trees is there as a memory as well. It's all very special. And it's right here on the approach to Moses' Mountain. So this is how you would continue to the right, to continue on the green trail, or go to the left and very carefully cross the street and go up Mount Moses. So, as we're walking, you can see again there's Manor Road, and there's our little walkway. Again, if you do come this way, please be careful crossing the road. There is a crosswalk, but people tend to drive a little bit fast, so be a little careful crossing there. And once you're over there, you can go in, make a left, and make your way up to Moses Mountain. All right, so we are going to end here, right by Moses Mountain. Please come and visit us again virtually, and hopefully we will be doing some in-person programming starting in May. If you want to say goodbye, Angel? Yeah, have a really great day. Thank you so much for joining us. We're going to keep on and continue this loop. I don't know that we mentioned it, but this is probably a moderately difficult trail because of the steep-ish inclines and declines, but it is pretty accessible. I saw some little kids walking on the trail earlier, so definitely come on out, and especially in this season and this month, really come and experience all that the Greenbelt and High Rock Park and the Greta Moulton Trail have to offer.
All right, and you can join us at our Facebook pages, Staten Island Conservancy, the Greenbelt Conservancy, and the Greenbelt Environmental Education page, or check us out on YouTube, which is the Staten Island Greenbelt. And you can also check us out on our Eventbrite page to see what events we have coming up. So we'll see you soon.